Hi guys, Arindam here, and finally I'll be able to show you a proper benchmarking video. Unlike the last one, this time you will actually see the performance monitors on. Yes, I have MSI Afterburner installed, and so in this video I will be benchmarking my GTX 1660 Ti 6GB graphics card on ARK Survival Ascended. Let me show you the settings that I currently have. So I'm actually playing this game with this kind of settings, some at medium, some at epic. Well, these are actually much lower than this, but I have been able to get somewhat good frames with this kind of a setting. So, in this video, I'll be showing you three resolutions: 1080p that is Full HD, 900p, 720p which is HD at native 67% resolution scale which is FSR quality, 50% which is FSR balanced, and 33% which is FSR performance. And for them, I'll be showing you at low, medium, high and epic resolutions or epic quality settings. I will also be telling you one little trick that you can use that will dramatically increase your FPS by at least 10 to 15 minimum. So let's begin. Before we actually do anything, let's take this to full HD. Let's make sure all these things are set to low, because that's how we are going to start. Low, 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 low. Everything is low. And these things are all going to be at off. So I'm not touching these other things. Let's make sure that all these things are low. We're going to save, and now we're going to boot up. Again, I'm going to delete them. Unlike the last video, we're going to skip over the intro and the other things. One of the nice things I found out about ARK Survival Ascended is the load times are pretty good. So you can see I have the map explored from our previous video.
Are you the one I've been...
Okay, we're going to skip over Helena for now. So this is low. Let me start the benchmark. So you can see how much everything is getting consumed. The minimum, average, 1 and 0.1% low. It's pretty good. With everything turned to low at full HD, it's kind of good. Though the 1% lows having at 3 FPS is kind of worrying. So I'm going to be doing exactly what I did in the last video. We are going to go over to various different biomes and we're going to see how the FPS performs. I will even change the time of day to night and see how the lighting of the moon is going to affect our FPS. This is going to be a much more detailed version of our previous video, but I'm going to make sure that the video length is not like nearly 1 hour long. So you can see this is the FPS currently. Let's go underwater. At least for now, if you look at the FPS, it's coming in the 30s. Still okay. You can play native full HD on a 1660 Ti with everything turned to low. It doesn't look as horrible as playing it on some other game, maybe ARK Survival Evolved, which with everything turned off looked really horrible. Now, I remembered the redwoods and especially the swamp biome was actually causing a lot of problems. So this is the redwoods. The FPS as you can see is in the upper 20s. Looking at the water, still not too much. Now, let's see. Do you see something? I was there on the ground. I was there under the water. The FPS was in the 30s. The moment I went up to the clouds, the FPS is horrible. Why? Now I'm going to show you the little trick that I have. So we're going to go into console and we're going to disable the volumetric clouds. So we're going to do r dot volumetric. Eventually you get the first option and then just 20. Look at the FPS, it's currently at 20, right? 20 and What did I tell you? Look at the FPS now. Didn't I tell you the FPS might actually come close to 10 to 15? Depending upon your GPU, this can be even better. But for my GPU at low, this dramatically increased the FPS. And the fun fact is, if I were to now look up at the sky, I'm going to get 60 FPS. So it means that unlike ARK Survival Evolved, where there have been times in which my old computer using a GTX 550 Ti were always getting single figure FPS, even when I looked at the sky, that problem is not there. So even though the game is pretty taxing on our GPU and it's poorly optimized, it's not as poorly optimized as ARK Survival Evolved was when it launched in 2015-2016. So for the purpose of this particular video, I'm going to turn this thing back on because we're going to see how this thing looks. Okay, let me do one thing. Now let me actually go to the ground level where we are going to actually play. So if you are going to play on low with volumetric clouds off, this is pretty good FPS. You can see it's in the 30s. It's in the upper 30s, so it's pretty good. Especially those of you who don't have a really powerful CPU. And by the way, my configuration for this is a laptop version of a GTX 1660 Ti. So the desktop version with a higher power wattage of 120 watts should give much better FPS than my laptop version, which is limited to 80 watts only. And I am using 16 GB of DDR4 RAM, a 1 terabyte NVMe hard disk, and I am running this on a 10th generation Core i7. So all in all, on a desktop using a 1660 Ti, you should be getting marginally better FPS than what I am getting on my laptop variant. Now let's do something. Let's go into the swamp biome. This was the redwood. I believe I was already in the swamp. Yes, this was the swamp. Now swamp is the most taxing biome as far as I saw, based on my all of my sessions in ARK Ascended so far. And you can see it's still in the 30s. Still in the lower 30s and upper 20s, which means that even at native resolution with everything turned to low, you should still be able to play this. Let's do one more thing. Let's change the time of day. So let's do set time of day and let's make it night, 10 o'clock. So it's night. We have this aurora. I won't say it's borealis or australis. Should be what? Aurora islandis. Who knows? Anyway, the FPS is now much lower at night, but you can still see the FPS is kind of sort of still playable. And by the way, this is native. If you were to change the resolution scale slightly lower, which I will show you right now, you should be able to get acceptable frame rates. Alright, now let's do something. Let's actually come to settings and change this. Oh, wait, look at that. I was actually playing this on 80%. Apologies. Let me show you 100%. Okay, so this is 100%. Frame rates are more or less same, maybe around 1 to 3 FPS less. I would say around 3 FPS less to be conservative. But it's still okay. I mean, it is theoretically possible to play this game at around 25 FPS. Even though, I mean, currently you're on the island map. Obviously, if you're going to be doing missions on Genesis Part 1 and Part 2, then 25 FPS will not work. And if you ever feel that your GPU is slowing down, you can obviously look at the sky, gaze at the moon, and your FPS will shoot back up to 60. Underneath the water at night, where there should be a lot of corals, FPS is in the 40s or not. it's in the 30s, so it's still okay. This is native, by the way. Whatever I was showing you a couple of minutes back was actually at 80%. Now then, let me change this to 12 and let me change the volumetric cloud to 1. So this is actually native 100% with low. You're getting low 20s. Now let's do something. We were actually seeing 80% all this time, but let's make it 67. This is what you actually get for FSR quality or DLSS quality basically. So on DLSS quality with the volumetric clouds on, you are getting in the lower 30s, which is pretty good, stable actually. Uh, you can see that the graphics is a bit blurry. The solution for this would be to go into the NVIDIA or AMD control panel and increase the sharpness, which will counteract all the blurriness somewhat. Compared to a lot of other games where decreasing the resolution scale will actually cause it to be soft, this game actually still maintains the sharpness at a distance, which I find is pretty good. Now let's go into this redwoods one more time. It's in the 30s, sometimes even reaching the 40s, but most of you guys would be interested mostly in the average and the 1% lows, but 1% lows are actually set for the entirety of the time span, so obviously it is low, but just look at the FPS, it's in the 30s. Let's come to the swamp. Still okay. How about going to the snow biome or the volcano? Volcano should be giving pretty good FPS. Not bad. There is a bit of stuttering, but that is expected because we are using fly and infinite stats, so the texture loading is going to take a bit of time. In the snow biome, we are getting pretty good FPS actually. Now, I'm not sure if there is a snowstorm weather in ARK Survival Evolved. If so, then this FPS is going to decrease a bit. Now, let me turn off the clouds. Now, the FPS is pretty good. So, I'm guessing a lot of you people, if you are on a GTX 1060 or a 1650 or graphics card similar to that, you will actually be playing this at this kind of setting. Everything turned to low. You have a crystal blue clear sky with the volumetric clouds turned off. So volumetric clouds off, everything turned to low, and you're getting pretty good FPS. So even though the GTX 1080 is the minimum system requirement, you can still play this game with a much lesser GPU. Alright, now uh, let me change this. Okay, before I change anything, let me first stop the benchmarking because our 1% and 0.1% lows are going to become very less otherwise. Then change this to 50%. Alright, save and then restart the 1% lows. Now as you see, the 1% lows are much better, or not, we got 4 FPS there, but anyway, we are in the 30s. I believe this is the limit of what kind of a resolution you would want to play at, because anything after below 50% will become simply too much for anyone to play. So we are getting upper 30s sometimes. And let's go Alright, so we have a Titanosaur. By default, the island map is supposed to have one Titanosaur with the dino count set to 1, so this is expected. So this is pretty much playable. If you can somehow mind, if you don't mind the fact that it looks super blurry, it is still playable at this resolution. The advantage is, without any shadows, you can actually see everything clearly. So it doesn't look all dark and gloomy. Same underwater. Pretty good FPS. Now, you will not be playing at this kind of a resolution. You would only be doing if your if you actually have the RTX DLSS set to performance or ultra performance, and maybe even frame generation is turned on. Who knows? Maybe if you have an RTX 4050 or a 3050, then you can expect the frames to be this good. An RTX 3050, by the way, the 8 GB version at least, is comparable to a GTX 1660 Ti. So on an RTX 3050, you should be able to get this kind of frames, which is good. And by the way, DLSS on performance will definitely look a lot better than me just changing the resolution scale to 33%. So this is fine. Next up, let's change this. Now we are going to test medium. Before we test medium, we are going to set everything to 100%. Okay, for medium, I am actually going to set the right side everything to turned on, because I believe that bloom and light shafts are pretty much default. That should be there for any modern game. And the bloom and light shafts really make the graphics look very good. So me personally, I would rather disable some of these options but keep this bloom and light shafts on. So now everything is at medium, resolution scale is 100, and we are doing it at full HD. So let's turn on the benchmarks and let's see how it looks. So this is medium. I see that ARK Ascended has actually made the color palettes more vibrant, so we definitely did not used to get this kind of vibrant colors in Survival Evolved. This is mostly a variant of Spino that you would associate with the Genesis Part 1, that is the X variant, X Spino. So on medium, we are getting frame rates up to around 25 or 29, 33. So in the beach it's hovering over 40. So this is still good, by the way. This frame rate is still good, and of course we have the volumetric clouds turned off. This is a more accurate representation. So this is medium. Medium clearly looks very good, and if you have the available hardware for it, medium, most of you guys, if you have maybe a 3060 or a 4050, you should be able to play this game at medium with at least some kind of DLSS. This actually looks very good though, when you don't need to set settings to higher quality. But let's see how it looks underwater, how it behaves underwater. So underwater the FPS is very good. As you can see, pretty good. Now, as usual, let's go into the most taxing part, which is the swamps. Okay, these are the swamps. Swamps has lots of these shadows and lots of foliage, and we are getting frame. I can obviously do this. I kill one guy, another guy comes to take his place, and I have, look at this, isn't it beautiful? Okay, looks like some kind of body art. Anyway, so we are getting in the 20s and sometimes in the upper 20s. So we know what kind of frame this is giving. Let's now change this to quality. DLSS FSR quality. To be honest, I know that I'm moving super fast and this is causing a lot of streaming problems, but this is pretty good. If I were to be an average Joe, try to run like this is pretty good. I mean, to be honest, ARK Ascended does suck all the power out of your GPU, just like all these leeches that have infested me, but it's still okay. If you just want to play the game, have some kind of basic graphics, then think this hovering in the 20s and sometimes in the lower 30s should be fine for you. And if by any chance you want to disable this, as I told you, full 10 plus FPS. In fact, my FPS just increased from around 23s to nearly 40s or 37, so around 4 15 FPS increase. You can easily play like this. I mean, you just have to imagine that ARK always has beautiful clear sky weather. Just imagine that. And even when it rains from the heavens. There is no cloud. It just rains from the heavens. That should be fine. And whenever you are going to the snow biome, it is always like Christmas weather. Perfectly clear sky, but still it's snowing. Okay. There are two of these titanosaurs in the map, which is strange because with the dino count set to default value that 1, you should be having only one titanosaur per map, not two. But that's good. So the FPS is very good. Again, one more thing I have to point out is if you have to just ignore these anomalies. This is, I think the devs will eventually fix this. So one thing I have to point out is if you still want better FPS, based on my hours and hours worth of playtime, the snow biome seems to have much better FPS compared to the other biomes. I believe this is because of the lack of vegetation and the lack of shadows due to the lack of vegetation. The snow biome actually gives much better FPS compared to biomes that have a lot of dense foliage and grass. So yes, the more I'm close to foliage, the less will be the FPS, and the snow biome actually has the best number of FPS. So that's that. That is one. There was one more, that is two. And if I remember correctly, there was a third one. So there is some spawn issues also. So three titanosaurs. Maybe ARK Ascended has a different way of spawnings. I mean the spawn containers may be using a different logic. So we have three titanosaurs already on this map, and I have not changed any kind of settings for my single player environment. Alright, so that was your settings for 67%. I won't be going to 33% because we would generally not be using that. So this is balanced, by the way. This is the place where I make my base. all the times, and I probably might again do the same thing this time because this place looks really good and the frame rates are pretty good. Because of how good the graphics is and because of the fact that sharpening is pretty good in the game, it actually looks pretty nice even at a distance. This place is vastly different from what it was in Survival Evolved. So this place was kind of like a grassland with a small bunch of trees, but now it is completely full of trees. I remember during my very first season, I actually made my base over here, this place. Now it's completely full of lush vegetation. Anyway, you can see, look at this part. Even though we are at 50% resolution scale, this thing still looks amazing. So I think a lot of you guys can actually play this game like this. It doesn't matter too much. Alright, so next up, we are actually going to set everything to high. This is where the FPS is going to start causing problems very badly. Okay, 0. And just look at the graphics. Look at the difference between medium and high. So it almost looks like a different game. So in medium, this beautiful hue was not even there, but now this hue is there. It looks amazing. And I know that we are just getting 15 FPS. Really looks amazing. So if you have the wallet to purchase a graphics card like maybe a 3070 Ti, I think not even that, maybe a 3080 or a 4070, then you can actually play this game at high with native, because I don't think even a 3070 can take on the beating that this game can give on everything turned to high. As you can see, the minimum and 1% lows are still 0, while the FPS is still in like 10, 11. And the game doesn't have, I'm not even using ray traced reflections or anything. It is still screen based reflection, as you can see from the reflections that are changing because of my movement. Because I'm changing the screen space, the reflections are also changing and adjusting based on that. So just out of curiosity, let's go underwater and also in the swamp. I believe the volumetric clouds is having a dramatic effect here, volumetric clouds and the fog. So if I were to disable these two things, then the frame rate should be much better. Looks very good, performs very bad. So let's do something. Without further ado, let's disable the volumetric clouds. The moment you disable the volumetric clouds, well, FPS actually doesn't change too much though, to be honest, because only when you look at the sky are you going to actually find the FPS is going to increase. But other than that, since the base graphics significantly increased, especially the global illumination which is turned to high, I believe the graphics is still in a very poor shape. I believe this is where lumen and nanite, especially lumen, takes effect. And lumen has this kind of a ray trace kind of a global illumination, and that is what is causing the FPS to dip like this. What about underwater? How will underwater perform? So this is underwater. You can see that there is a substantial amount of fog even underwater, which was not there on low and medium. So these guys are attacking me, but these guys are not being able to take. Okay, accepted. I was thinking maybe these guys could take out the leech, but I obviously, so I had infinite stats on but not god. What that happened was infinite stats regenerates your health, so if enough enemies attack you at with enough speed, it will not have enough time to regenerate your health back, and so I died. This is the difference between god and infinite stats, by the way. So this is your high. Let me do one thing. Okay, by the way, these things are all turned off. Now I am going to change this directly to your quality mode, and let's see. Quality mode, and this thing is turned off. It's still horrible, but it's still kind of playable with this. If you want to have the kind of graphics that was shown in the trailer, as well as in the ARK 2 cinematic trailer, then you will need to make sure that your graphics is at high. I think especially the advanced graphics and global illumination. And your FPS is going to tank like this, even with 67%. Now, my MSI Afterburner, for some weird reason, cannot actually um, show me the GPU usage. So that little thing was hidden. That is why I cannot show you. But I know for a fact that GPU is currently at full 99%. In the redwoods, it should be even worse because we have more shadows. So in general, I mean, most of you guys already know this. If you want to increase your FPS, the first thing you would do is lower or disable shadows. The second thing you want to do is take out the volumetric fogs. Third would be all of the post-processing effects. Most of the time our GPUs are capable of taking on higher textures, provided you have enough RAM, but it's the shadows that actually cause a lot of problems, as you can see right now. Okay, I won't spend any much time on this. We could do it at 50 just for curiosity's sake. So let's do at 50 for a couple of seconds, and we're going to move to epic settings. So this is 50%. I know I've shown you medium at 50%, so this is high at 50%. The frame times are horrible, as you can see. It's horrible. It looks like some patient who is having a serious problem in his heart, with the graph fluctuating wildly. Very high heartbeat. And it's in the lower 20s. I mean, uh, it's not a slideshow, but it's still worse enough that I myself will not be able to play at this kind of frames. But I know that this is the kind of frame rates you would expect on an official server in ARK Survival Evolved, especially which has I mean, tons and tons of turrets and other structures placed. The lag spikes, as you guys are common to notice. Alright, so this is basically your 50%. Now for the big one. Before I change any resolution, I am actually going to show you epic settings. My guess is it's going to have FPS, I think, between 3 and 5. Let's see. This is maxed out graphics at full HD. We do not have anything that affects the graphics here other than the frame rate, so this is effectively full graphics. Everything to epic at full screen. And look at the beautiful graphics. You don't even need to use photo mode for this. If you can disable the HUD, yes, see, you already got photo mode because it looks like a still picture. I'm surprised that the FPS max at least reached double digits, but on an average it's like 2, 3, 5 like this. You would obviously require a 4090, a 24 GB 4090 just to play this game at this. I don't think even a 3080 can withstand everything at Epic, unless of course you have DLSS and frame generation turned on. In which case I think even a 4070 should be able to run Epic at full HD. So this is your Epic settings. Looks incredibly good. I am just going to change this directly to 50. I won't be going to 67 for this because we already know that it's not going to matter too much. So this, change to save, and our FPS increased by 60%. Yes, imagine. Our FPS was 5, now it is 7 to 8, which is 60% increase. 60% is a very large number. Provided your base number is also large, 60% actually doesn't look that much high. It still is not reaching double digits. What about the snow? And by the way, this is with the clouds disabled. So if the clouds were enabled, I believe it would be exactly a still picture. Let's go to the snow biome. Yes, this biome is good for your FPS. At least you are getting 9, 10 FPS, something better. So if you have motion sickness, you would be having even more motion sickness playing like this. So forget about it. Now, clearly we cannot play like this. The next thing we should do is, most of you would want to play this at medium, not low, medium. And you would want to, uh, medium is at least you have something. Let me disable this. And the next thing you want to do is, you would want to play this at least at 67%. Alright. The next thing what you want to do is, you would try to play this maybe at, okay, how about 1600 by 900? Okay, wait, let's make it this. This is 900p, everything at medium. This is not bad actually. Of course you cannot play at full HD, but this is not bad. We have disabled this little volumetric clouds part. Ignore the 1% lows for now. This is because me just moving around very fast. Okay, so here the frame rates are horrible. So even on 900p everything set to medium, this is going to be a bit of a problem. How about clear areas like this? In clear areas you are getting 30s. So let's see, if you were to make your base and mostly play like a beach pop, then you would be in this kind of an area. And here the FPS is in the 30s. It's still okay, but I would mostly be playing games which at least get 25 fps. So we can actually lower this to 67%. I know it's a lot though. Now this is playable frame rate. This is playable frame rate. So 900p at 67%. This is playable. Obviously it looks very blurry, but at least it is playable. Again, let's go to our benchmarking area, the swamps. See, it's in the 30s. It's in the 30s, 27, 28. So this is playable, and it's not stuttering, and it's smooth actually. So let's look at the settings for once. Everything is set to medium. We're playing at 900p with 67%. This is playable. Now, finally, lot of you might even be playing it at 720p, or maybe even playing at say 1366 by 768. For those of you, let's see how this works. This is 720p native. Okay, let's change the time of day because I don't like the time right now. This is perfectly playable. You're getting 30s in the grasslands. Okay, in the jungles, you are still getting 30s. Okay, what about the redwoods? In the redwoods, it's still 30s. So this is playable by the way, and I am moving super fast, which means that frame rates will actually increase after it stabilizes, after the texture loading is all done. So this is playable by the way, perfectly playable. And if these areas have this kind of frame rates, then obviously places like the volcano and the snow biome is going to have upper 30s or even lower 40s. Let's see. Okay, let's now actually give the volumetric clouds. Volumetric clouds is going to cause a problem. Let's be honest, this is the one thing that is going to cause a problem. The moment I change volumetric clouds, it stopped being playable. So even though you can see the FPS, by the way, you can see that it's 25, 26, but since I am actually controlling the person, I'm actually finding that there is some kind of a slowdown in the way I am turning. There is some kind of acceleration and deacceleration in the movement. So this volumetric cloud thing has to be disabled. It's super slow. Yes, it is super slow. It almost feels like someone has strapped a very heavy weight over my head and I'm trying to turn my head, which is causing my head to feel super dizzy. So you need to disable this. There is no other option. Okay, let me turn this to night. Night actually looks pretty okay. So even at night we are getting 25, 26, 27. Let me do one little thing. Uh, just out of curiosity, let's see if we can find a cave. Let's see how it looks like inside a cave. And let's see, again, hypothetically, let's see the Skylord cave. Let's see if the Skylord cave's spawning problem is not there or not. Supposed to be here somewhere. Not here. Is it this one? Not here. Either it looks a lot different or I may have forgotten. Okay, actually I did not forget, I actually have good memory. So this I believe is the Skylord cave. Okay, GFI torch. Do we have a torch? We have a torch. 110. Do we have a torch? We have a torch. So inside the cave, let's see how the FPS looks. So inside that actually there is a pretty bad stutter. So see, it's in the lower 20s. All of these reflections and lighting is causing this problem, and to be honest, this is not playable. So we're playing this at 720p, and even now the frame rate is this bad. Um, I don't think anyone would actually put any kind of FSR on 720p. Anyway, let's get the hell out. So now it's taking a long time just to reach the proper location. Anyways, now we have done all the benchmarking. We would want to know what is the optimal settings to play this, at least for my GTX 1660 Ti mobile or laptop version, whatever. So let's disable this, we don't need this. So I'm going to be playing this at this resolution. I know it's not full HD, but it's better than nothing. This is at 100. I think we can change this to low, advanced graphics to low, and anti-aliasing we can actually make it high or epic. View distance, this has to be made to low. This is okay, we can turn it to high. Post processing, I think it's okay. Shadows, if you make it low, the FPS is going to increase a lot, but shadows on low is basically going to disable most of the shadows, so it will look really bad. So effects and foliage, I think this can be turned to low, and I think this can also be turned to low. I don't even know what this thing actually does. So this is kind of what I'm going to be using for playing. It's around 30 FPS right now. Okay, when I say I'm going to be playing at this, I mean for now. I know what GPU I'm going to be buying. I've already made a decision based on a lot of research, and I'll be buying that in a week or two. And after that, I should be easily be able to play ARK Ascended on minimum high and at least epic at full HD. I'm not sure about 1440p, but at 1080p which I generally play, I should be able to play this maxed out. Yes, it's a pretty good graphics card. It should serve me for at least 5 years, if not more. So as you can see, with the settings that I have, I am getting shadows. It's a bit bright, but the FPS is more or less good. For last, at least if I were to go into the swamps, just as a last exercise, okay, swamps should be here. No, it should be there. There is the swamps. It's still okay. 25-30 FPS, it should be fine. So, before I wrap up this video, I'm going to be showing you my settings one more time. It is at native 1600 by 900, these things set to low, epic, low, high like this. The only other change I can do is make this full HD and then change this to 70% or 80%. then I should be getting the same kind of FPS. Okay, that is it for this benchmarking video. From the next video onwards, I would be actually showing you regular ARK content. Hopefully, I won't have to be hopefully I should be able to get the GPU quickly, and I don't have to use this really horrible microphone that I'm currently using. I cannot actually show you how I'm actually placed the microphone because this is from a normal cheap earphone. It's not even a proper microphone. The one that I have broke, as I told you, and I need to buy a new one. So till then, thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next one.